Throughout my entire career, 25 some years, we have been dabbling with skills data, and it never was truly successful heretofore because most of the systems died under their own weight. By the time you got it up and running, things were changing.
In 2025, AI's ability to work autonomously doubled every 7 months. Right now, it is already doubling every 4 months. And so that's not only exponential growth, but exponential acceleration.
To me, the concept of the All Access Pass is that I firmly believe this CHRO role is that you're a business leader first. So you absolutely should be part of the business strategy, the business decision making, and then you apply your functional craft and your strategy to present choices of what the organization could focus on based on the impact you seek to create. For prospective CHROs or people who are interested in maybe a new role, to me, the things to ask are threefold. First of all, what is the business strategy of the organization you're interested in? Secondly, how does the CEO view the role, and how do you view the role? And what does that look like in, I'll call it, daily operations? And thirdly...
Hi, I'm Julius, and I'm the host of this show. I get a lot of requests from people what's the best way to follow us and get the latest on new episodes. Well, the best way is to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Just make sure on Spotify you click on the bell icon so you get notified with new releases. We would greatly appreciate your support. It's simple, it's free, so please do double check if you subscribed, because with that, you too are a part of our community. So yeah, thank you very much and enjoy the show. So hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TechWolf podcast. And today I'm joined not by one, but by two people. On the one hand, we have Wornoo, co-founder at TechWolf. And on the other hand, we're joined by Jordana Kammerud, an experienced Fortune 500 CHRO, most recently at the helm of HR for Corning Inc. Welcome to you both. Super excited to have you, and thanks for coming over.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
As we jump in, I want to start this episode the way I start all episodes, which is with a question from the previous guest. We like to connect the episodes one to the other. And the question was from Jan Dutot, Chief Revenue Officer at SAP SuccessFactors. And the question was for you, Jordana, and he was wondering, did you ever experiment with skills data? And if so, how did it go? And if not, why didn't you do it?
It's so interesting right now because I think throughout my entire career, 25 some years, we have been dabbling with skills data, and it never was truly successful heretofore because most of the systems died under their own weight. By the time you got it up and running, things were changing. You had to put a lot of effort, human and technical effort, into keeping it up. Now we're at this incredible point where we have both the technology, the AI enablement, and also people's general cultural agreement, if you will, to share more data. Even though we talk about maybe they're not so sure of it, if you ever look at Gen Z and Alpha and how much they put out in the world on social media, you know they are fine with sharing data. So we're at this point where we actually can now finally realize the dream of, I would say, cataloging in a good way the skills and experiences of people and being able to use that to enable their careers and enable the success of an organization. So absolutely have dabbled in it. It's been super exciting to work in it in the last few years, and seeing out where it's going is transformative to people and their ability to really realize their potential in this world. So, okay. Yes.
So yes, and how did it go also? Were the experiments fruitful? What was the experience like for you?
Yeah. In the past, as I said, further back when you were experimenting with skills data, you worked really hard to align what was actual skills or experience that led to future success. And there was a fairly good degree of relevance there. But as I said, very hard to keep up and to keep fresh. In the last few years, particularly at my last organization, we were looking at this and where they're now enacting it, you now could see the possibility, because of the ability to see the relationship between skills adjacencies, and much more understanding about that, the ability for AI to, I would say, scrub both your skills taxonomy as well as the recommended or likely skills of a person. You just have all this capability to go through that in a much faster fashion. Now you can really see the opportunity for value realization. So now I think it's a much more worthy experience for everybody to undertake. And within another year or so, actually, probably now, it's critical experience for every organization to start working in because skills are changing so fast. Role-based systems just are not going to enable the same sort of talent management success that they've had in the past. How it has gone, how it is going, and how I think it will be going.
Yeah, interesting. And you hinted a little bit towards that compelling event to map skills these days, which is the fast evolution of those skills and having to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
It ties very closely to the AI transition that we're in right now, which is all of a sudden all encompassing. And I'm curious to learn from you, how should a CHRO prepare for a pace of change today with the AI revolution that exceeds previous technological cycles?
Yeah. Two things. I think for a CHRO, you have to go back to basics, which is strategic planning. So as you spool the future out and you look at these signals, AI revolution, other elements, you're applying it to your actual business and organization. So you're asking yourself some key questions. How can this technology enable the success of our business from a strategic advantage standpoint? Our strategic advantage anchors, how will AI affect that? Then from a talent and capability standpoint, what does that mean? And how is AI affecting our ability to obtain, to develop, to create that sort of talent? So you have two general questions that you should be asking yourself about any big shift in your world that you should apply to this AI tech shift. But the second piece, because it is moving so fast and because it is so all encompassing, is being able as a CHRO to go deep yourself. It's really hard to be able to shepherd this type of transformation if you do not have I would say, a fairly deep understanding of the technology itself. So my encouragement for all CHROs out there, if they haven't already, and I know a lot who are, but go deep and dabble in these tools, go beyond dabbling in these tools, and think about how you can maximize your capability so that you can get a feel, you can get an understanding, and then you can shepherd the organization from your point on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Mick, you wanna add to that?
100%. So we have about 15 customers in the early adopter program looking at how to assess the impact of AI on the workforce. Most of them have a dual mandate. One is figuring out what the impact of AI will be within the HR function. The second one is really figuring out what the impact of AI will be on the workforce and preparing the workforce for AI. And to Jordana's point, it's very hard to prepare your workforce for AI if you don't fully feel how quickly it is going. So our brain doesn't really understand exponential change, exponential growth. We've seen that during COVID. It's the same thing now in AI. There is exponential growth of capability. In 2025, the ability to work autonomously doubled every 7 months. Right now, it is already doubling every 4 months. And so that's not only exponential growth, but exponential acceleration. So to really understand that, to Jordana's point, you need to dabble in AI yourself. And we're seeing a lot of CHROs do that. And the ones that are most advanced in their own understanding of AI are the ones that are also most advanced in pushing the organization forward and taking up that mandate of enabling the organization.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And Mick, you mentioned something there, early adopter program, and I want to clarify everything that we say here on the podcast. So for people who don't know, what are you exactly referring to here?
Yeah, 100%. So last year, beginning of 2025, when reasoning models started, a lot of organizations started realizing that AI was really in rapid takeoff, started asking us, hey, TechWolf, can you help us understand the impact of AI on the workforce? We could do that with old technology, but we also realized for some of the questions we were getting, we needed to develop new technology. What we didn't want to do was do 2 years of product development, then go back to the market. So we sat down with a few of our leading customers, with some organizations that we wanted to partner with, Jordana being one of them, and we invited them to co-create. We invited them to help us design a solution that could help organizations understand the impact of AI on the workforce, but also help them close AI skill gaps.
Yeah, and given that's the commonality here, the early adopter program, assessing the impact of AI in the workforce, I'm curious to look a bit deeper at also the CEO, CHRO relationship. And I know, Jordana, you call this the secret sauce, the bond and the trust that goes into that relationship. How does something like this, the more data-driven way to look at your workforce, how does that help with that trust relationship? And how have you seen that help?
Yeah, I think whenever you're looking at the role of the CHRO, it's really incredibly important that the CHRO and the CEO have, I would say, a shared viewpoint about the role of the function in advancing the business strategy, and that there's a understanding of how that function actually then operates, right? So how does HR use data? What data is available to the organization? And by the way, that changes. I mean, that is a seasonal thing sometimes. And when I say season, I mean a business season. So sometimes the organization, we all have to make choices, right? Has maybe two or three things that are extremely critical to its success that it must be focused on. And even though workforce capability is important to everyone, it might not be the season or the reason for a survival in this moment. So I think when I have looked at my experience with the CEO CHRO relationship in the past, it has varied depending on what the business strategy is and where we were in the evolution of, I would say, capability in relation to achieving that business strategy. So
Mm.
going forward, though, what I would say is in the last 5 to 10 years, we've had access to a lot more data on workforce analytics, way beyond people asking about headcount or turnover, but truly data around tying it together and understanding corollary factors between success, people's skill sets, history, aptitude, their leadership, and their leadership's capability. I could go on and on. So HR itself has more data at its fingertips in the last 5 to 10 years. And maybe we haven't fully across the function, I would say, consistently approached how we use that data. But that is definitely now required. And AI will help that, right? Because as great partners like TechWolf and others create the human capital systems or parts of the system that allow for more AI and agent support, if you will, we get more consistent through that and just better than, because the agents are amazing at it, right? At bringing data into the conversation. And that's the really interesting thing right now in the early adopter program here, for example, you're starting to get the data you need for the organization and help the organization understand that data so that they can have an insights-based plan to where they need to develop their workforce, right? Now you
Mm.
think about that in every element of the function and every element of data that we have available to us around our humans, right, our workforce. And you think about that kind of capability, as you said, Mick, just scaling, getting more and more capable every 7 months, every 4 months, every 3 months, 2 months. So it becomes almost inevitable. It's impossible that there won't be extreme capability in workforce data in the future of HR. That will happen through AI and agents and systems, whether or not you come along with it. So for a CHRO, HR, CEO partnership, et cetera, the importance is get on the bus, get understanding and move forward into this realm. And when you have that understanding, you can start bringing much more data to the conversation around the business strategy, which is what the CEO needs to see, right?
Yeah, and I was about to go there about business strategy, because it's one thing to have the data, it's another thing to have agentic workflows that make that data embedded in the way of
Mhm.
working. But how do you know you're focusing on the right things? And there might be a lot of CHROs out there that have the puzzle pieces, but that don't know what to jump on first. And that's where
Mhm.
I'm interested in your what you talk about, the all access pass to the CEO strategy, how you've done that in the past and how you advise other CHROs to get there or other HR leaders.
Yeah. So to me, the concept of the All Access Pass is that I firmly believe the CHRO role, the way that at least I like to operate in it and work in my craft, is that you're a business leader first. So you absolutely should be part of the business strategy, the business decision making, the understanding of what's happening. And then you apply your functional craft and your strategy to present choices of what the organization could focus on based on the impact you seek to create on the workforce side and the people side and the culture side to support the achievement of the business strategy. And that is the way that I believe you can be the most successful and impactful CHRO. I think it varies, though. There are different needs, as I said, for different organizations, depending on what they're facing and what their business strategy truly is. So, from my perspective, the all access pass is required because you want to know that that's the way the organization sees the role too. So for prospective CHROs or people who are interested in maybe a new role, to me, the things to ask are threefold. First of all, what is the business strategy of the organization you're interested in? And do your skills and experience align to be able to produce a unique value for the organization through that? Secondly, how does the CEO view the role and how do you view the role? And what does that look like in, I'll call it daily operations? And as I said, that can change from season to season, but generally you want to see that there's a similar viewpoint. And thirdly, it comes down to as well on this really effective partnership or really effective execution of the CHRO role as to how does that prospective CEO view leadership and sort of viewpoint of the world of work at large? How does that align with what your view is? Because you really want harmony in that. That doesn't mean it all has to be the same. It just means to be harmonic between those two roles for the, I would say, ultimate value creation.
And talking about the AI takeoff, Mick, you've also described in the past the current takeoff as an Oppenheimer moment. And it reminds me a little bit about what Diane Gerson says as well. The Frederick Winslow Taylor moment seems to be all summarizing to there's a turning point. And it connects to the advice of CHROs strengthening that relationship with the CEO. But I want to hear from you, what did you mean by that Oppenheimer moment, first of all? Where do you think the criticality lies in that moment that we're in?
Yeah. So one, I really love that movie, and it really left an imprint on me. And one of the scenes that really, really, really changed the way I viewed AI was the first time they test the atomic bomb, 5:30 a.m. in the desert. It's pitch dark, and at some point they see that massive mushroom cloud. You probably feel the heat and the shock wave from the blast. And I think at that point it stopped being this idea where like, yeah, I'm helping to win the war, I'm building a bomb, but like I'm doing this for good, to almost an inevitability and understanding the destructiveness of your creation. I think that's the idea behind the quote, like, yeah, I'm the destroyer of worlds in a way. And this came to me after I was listening to some of the foundational AI labs podcasts. Like I wondered if in a way something similar was going to happen, where right now everybody's developing fun technology. It's fun to push everything forward, but as technology progresses, as this becomes truly, truly, truly a way to unlock productivity, will we have massive unemployment? I think yesterday or the day before at Davos, the CEO of Anthropic was talking about 50% unemployment in early careers in 5 years. Those are massive numbers. I was talking about it relatively casually. We're seeing the early innings of massive disruption in careers. So there is a societal responsibility we all have in the AI industry, but I also think it's a massive opportunity for HR leaders to really help the organization navigate a massive transformation. Because if every organization is going through a 20% reduction in force at the same time, that just has a massive societal implication. At the same time, there's also just a massive opportunity to reskill, redeploy people. There's been examples of people that through natural attrition or to smart redeployment have been able to get those AI productivity gains without necessarily having to lay off a big part of the workforce. I think the CHRO at IBM, Nicole, essentially said, look, the reason why the AI transformation is such a massive opportunity for HR and why HR should lead it is skills are at the center, but also they bring a unique perspective. Obviously, the business wants the productivity and growth improvements as fast as possible. Legal wants to go slow. Finance wants to cut costs. HR can really bring a balanced perspective. And that really resonated with me. And I think it's why a lot of HR leaders are now getting that mandate to lead the AI transformation and AI enablement for their workforce.
Yeah. And Jordana, you believe that too, right? You believe AI can actually amplify the human experience and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. But I wonder, to Mick's point, statements from the CEO of Anthropic, other moves we see in the market where there's a more aggressive shift to adapting to AI with the workforce. How do we maintain humanity and leadership while scaling AI-enabled coaching and agents and workforce decisions?
Hmm. Well, a couple of things. First of all, I think there's always been organizations that are more designed around maximum efficiency, maximum cost reductions, et cetera. And then there's been other organizations, usually the longer, more sustainable ones, that are thinking about all stakeholder management. How do I create a sustainable culture that people want to be part of, that's purpose driven for greater good in the world in some way, shape, or form? So, even with this latest opportunity around fundamental workforce shift, if you go back to what the true intent of I guess I'll say business production is, you're trying to create value in the world and it has to be a sustained system. So it's very short-term thinking to think, well, if we cut all these people and all these costs, we'll all be better off. Because in the end, if the economy is suffering, where are your customers going to be getting their money to invest in your product, et cetera? It may take a long time to hit that cycle of realization. The disruptions, major disruptions in the economy, we usually don't feel them for 2-3 years. Look at the pandemic, right? But eventually we do, and there's some self-correcting mechanisms in there. So for me, I believe the HR role, but the role of all the business leaders around the table in this revolution is how do you balance the opportunity and the long-term impact of these changes? You do not want to be so slow that you create a disadvantage that would impact your ability to survive or be sustained. But you also don't want to be part of something that's so fast and so short term in its thinking that it disrupts your sustainability long term. So there is an approach there. And yes, because skills are at the center of it and humans are at the center of it, absolutely HR should be at the center of it. But I would also add, and I believe Nicola would add this too, that but the entire leadership team has to be part of this transformation and what it means for the organization at large. As far as keeping the human as part of it, there's some really fascinating studies going on now around synthetic empathy produced by AI versus real human empathy. And so my belief is, hey, take advantage of where synthetic empathy is helpful, frictionless approach to things. I want to be able to enable leaders and nudge leaders to be good leaders in the moment. But we have to design systems, whether it's customer service, HR systems, whether it's development systems, product development systems. We have to design them to think about where's the human off ramp. At what point is the trigger that we need an oversight review or that this should go to a real live human, right? To have the conversation. And I think that's incredibly an important part of org design, work design as well, to maintain the humanity in work and humanity in customer service and humanity in ethics in product development. How do we do that? To me, again, it's design of work, and it's also being very thoughtful as an organization in how you define the importance of empathy and leadership and how you train and develop that and how you hold people accountable to having it.
Yeah, yeah. It's about creating a culture for that to be front and center. And I loved how we started talking very zoomed out and then towards social responsibility. Now I'd love to dive a little bit deeper in the actionable layer. We touched upon it already, the skills layer. It's where workforce transformation can be shifted towards something more responsible as well. And Jordana, you describe skill taxonomies, which is often the foundation of it all, right? The language of skills, how you define a skill, how you structure it, the hierarchy of it. And you called it a rich tapestry where you can see every individual thread. I want to just ask about when we talk actionability, in your experience, how has something like that rich tapestry, how has that changed the way you approach talent strategy in your previous experiences?
Mhm. Mhm. It's interesting because for many, many years, we have struggled with the concept of what's a true ideal career path as you're developing general managers or leaders or name your role. And we've had to be that general because we haven't had, I would say, the ability to really parse an understanding with, in a more nuanced way, just the skills or the threads that create the tapestry of a great GM, a great leader, a great product developer, et cetera. And so because it's been more of a generalized system, we've had more generalized results. Now going forward, as we have greater data and greater understanding, and then the more we put in, the better we understand it, we have so much more knowledge of, if I know I have these skills, I know that there are likely these skills adjacencies. If I know that this person has these aptitudes, there's likely these aptitudes associated with them. If I have these experiences, it's likely I have these skills and likely I have these aptitudes with much greater predictive capability. So when you can see a person with not just what they've done, but what they likely could do to a greater degree, you can tailor their development with them, aligned, of course, with their interests, with the things that drive them, for the betterment of the organization. So to me, I would say, you know how you used to go out into a coffee shop and maybe you could order a small, medium, or large black coffee with cream or sugar. And now you can have probably a million permutations at a name your coffee shop because you have this ability to mix and match, et cetera. So think about that from a development standpoint. I have all these different elements that I can mix together to create the right person for this role. And when you design your system agilely around skills, you also have the ability to say, well, I'm not looking for just this role, name your title. I'm looking for this role that has to do this strategic task in this type of environment. Now, based on what I know from past experience here, from outside experience, what skills, adjacencies, competencies would I probably want in that role? And therefore, what's my whole catalog or inventory, if you will, of people who might be really good at that? And what's their desire in that? We've always had those basic elements in our thinking, but we've never had the data input and the ability to see, I would say, more of the predictive capability and make it so accessible for employees, for leaders, for HR as we have right now in this moment. Forget about what we'll have in the future, even right now in this moment. And that to me is what is so incredibly exciting and impactful about talent management in this moment. You now can take strategic workforce planning to places it has never been before, and you can marry it with what's good for all stakeholders, the employee as well, their desires, their aptitudes, and the ability to give them the opportunities and training and development to realize their dreams as well.
Jordana, I love how you're making the concept of a skills taxonomy so clear and so strategic. Many have tried, but I think you hit the nail on the head. But I actually want to double click on that, making skills relevant and telling that right story, because oftentimes for HR it's clear, or for the COEs it's clear why skills are important. But then how do you translate that to a narrative that sticks beyond HR? And then it's a question to both of you, but I'd like to start with Mick. You talk about the 3 horizons when it comes to work intelligence. When companies act on work intelligence, you can, in the first horizon, optimize for present AI investments. Second one, automate tasks, not jobs. And then the third one, redesigning work architecture. Can you explain how do CHROs even begin to guide the board through these horizons, to guide the business through this?
Yes, and maybe a little bit of context on the framework first. A lot of organizations are figuring out this dual mandate, but in the early adopter program specifically, you're also working against different timelines. Right now, a lot of customers are being asked, how do we improve the ROI of AI this year? We've invested a lot in Copilot. We've invested a lot in other AI systems. How do we get that ROI today? But then also, how do we make sure that we get the promised ROI in 1 to 3 years and 3 to 5 years? So first horizon is essentially all about maximizing the existing AI investment, where what we found is, like, if you break it down, make it really tactical, it's AI upskilling. It's making sure that people use Copilot, use ChatGPT, use the AI tools at their disposal. And so it's helping them figure out how to find the right prompts for the role, how to make sure that they're maximizing AI use day to day. On the second horizon, it's really figuring out how you automate, but also, and this is one of the use cases that came up, for example, prevent overhiring. So what we're seeing right now is that there is some roles with massive AI implications or high AI impact score, where there's still some hiring and open recs that might not necessarily be as needed or as required anymore. And then third horizon is really about redesigning work, rethinking work, where yes, you can create fun slides and nice bar charts and charts over what the impact of AI will be. But a lot of organizations, especially the bigger ones, are realizing that that will just take a very long time. So by splitting it out, you can create a lot of action and a lot of ROI, a lot of value in the first year, and then also take the organization along for the longer term redesign, where you don't need any knee-jerk reaction, where you don't need any mass layoffs, and you can really guide the organization through where it needs to be. And it will ultimately end up being leaner, more efficient, and more effective.
Jordana, do you recognize that type of storytelling? Have you employed something similar in the past as your past experiences?
Yeah, I like to think about that as parallel pathing or just getting down to business on some of it while you're laying out your bigger plan. So I think Mick's got really great advice and an incredible approach, which is, hey, it's almost table stakes now anyway, the efficiency piece. So figure out where you can get that and be ethical about it, as in use that data immediately. Get that data so you can use it immediately to prevent overhiring, et cetera, and minimize disruption for people and the business. And then this parallel path, the longer term, which is do the work of understanding what the impact can be in different places of your organization, what the ROI would be of that. Because some of that's bigger and more meaty as far as change and org design, et cetera. So you want to be choiceful about what's going to, what investment is going to bring a return, and hopefully in line with the way that you create value for the world, for your customers, et cetera, so that you can prioritize. Like any set of strategic investments, you want to prioritize what you will do and make choices. Completely agree and love the framework and love that that's part of how you're providing support to people as well, is helping them think through, as I say, how to get down to business.
Yeah, yeah. And at one of our customers, we're in the process of helping define AI goals for the employees on the employee level. And it's a mix of soft and more technical goals. And one word that's in there is curiosity. I wanted to ask to you, Jordana, if curiosity is the cornerstone of innovation, how do we protect and cultivate it when AI is handling the low value cognitive tasks? And this goes back to the Frederick Winslow Taylor moment. How do we avoid risking, or how do we avoid dehumanizing knowledge work? How do we cultivate or keep cultivating that curiosity in large enterprise organizations?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think curiosity is incredibly important. And I feel most of us in society tend to accidentally squelch it with from youth. If you think about how many questions children ask and how maybe little questions sometimes we adults ask, I think there's something there that we need to rediscover earlier than when we first enter the workforce, right? So really cultivating curiosity. And to me, that one, it's how do you think about rewarding that? So as you're thinking about training and developing leaders, how are you helping them reward their questioning employees and see it for what it is, which is curiosity? So there's a piece there about being very specific on that. I also think as you're thinking about enabling AI capability, this is like a uh, two or three opportunities with one solution. As you're thinking about training people on it, train them in ways that also enhance curiosity. So if you get into a GPT and you get a research GPT partner and you start researching something, I mean, I feel like is enhancing curiosity, especially the way that the LLMs are designed to sort of say, hey, well, what else we do this next? What if we do this next? And you can see how it can really both teach people, you can guide people through how to use these tools more effectively, while also actually enhancing and watering, if you will, the growth of their curiosity. So I think there are ways to just twist this concern on its side a bit and make this risk an opportunity. I also think that, and I've talked about this in the past, which is this concept of understanding how the human brain works is really important when you think about the AI human capability optimization. Because how the human brain works is innovation and creativity actually happens in subconscious processing a lot of times. It's when disparate ideas are coming together, not in the rational thinking, but in that synaptic connectivity and crossover that happens when we're a little bit at rest. So really important that we understand that and think about how do we design work so there's periods of rest so that our human brain works in its optimal way? How do we think about then training people to work with AI to pursue those ideas that are generated and to keep them fresh and keep them connected with other people so you can expedite innovation through that? And how do you also just have I'll call it a basic understanding of AI plus human, not just around auditing the output, but around truly optimizing the connectivity of the human brain compute and the AI compute. So, I mean, we could go deeper in a lot of these topics, but that's how I think about it.
Yeah, yeah, super interesting. My one but last question is a send home message to our audience, more specifically like the CHRO audience or people going into board meetings and trying to optimize the people story and this AI dominated story. And there's this one question that every quarter IBM had in their board meetings where the CEO was curious to ask the CHRO a simple question: is the caliber of our workforce better or worse than it was last quarter? And I'm curious to hear from each of you, what question would you advise CHROs prepare for to go in board meetings this year in 2026? And what type of topics should they prioritize in such conversations? Maybe starting with you, Jordana.
So, if the question is the capability of our organization better this quarter than last? I think that's an excellent, simple, wonderful question. And the contextual elements, going back to what's the business strategy of the organization you support, are what does more capable look like for this organization? And the second question that I would put in there for today is, as you're going through, what does capability look like for us, improved capability, et cetera, what are your checkpoints along the way to ensure that that is still true? So I think that there's ways to build out a little bit that clarity and make sure that it's contextualized for your organization. But when it comes to perhaps the topic du jour, if you will, from an AI standpoint with boards, I think that this is the moment to move beyond general and to start getting more specific. So being able to say, hey, generally, yes, we're thinking about cultural aptitude and broad aptitude, but very specifically as related to our business strategy, here is how we are incorporating AI capability, AI understanding into that future. So that to me is more important than anything right now, not just because it's such a big talent shift, but because it's also an extreme shift to the way that any organization varies, right? To any organization is performing its work and creating value. So I think you want to answer that for a board at the highest level. And then you want to, as the CHRO, be able to answer that from the very specific people and capability and leadership level.
Yeah, yeah. Mick, keen to hear your view on the question.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing in the early adopter program, and nothing different from what Jordana is saying. A couple of questions: what's our AI talent strategy? What are our AI skill gaps? How are we closing them? I'd say maybe one level higher. It all goes back to every organization having the same mandate. Every organization is trying to figure out, how do we get the most efficiency and effectiveness out of AI? How do we realize the most growth? And then in being able to break that down, as Jordana said, I'd say it's probably the first time ever where the questions we get from organizations converge this much. And it's an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Everybody's working on the same thing. So it's the perfect time to share notes and to see how other leaders are approaching the topic, because I can assure many leaders, or all the leaders that are listening, everybody's working on AI in some way, shape, or form. So you're definitely not alone.
Yeah, yeah. That's great, great message. But my last question, and it's for you, Jordana, and you might know what's coming. It's to connect this episode to the next.
Yeah.
By asking our next guest, who cannot be named yet. I have no idea who it's going to be. But asking them a question you're curious about in the realm of skills, work intelligence, or something beyond.
Yeah. So I'm curious as to how fellow CHROs are designing, I'll call it AI objectives, metrics, achievements into business strategy checkpoints and check-ins, and how organizations are then adjusting on the go-forward basis as we learn, because this is happening so fast. I'm super curious as to how people are building this into their operating routines in other organizations.
So how do you measure success, and how do you keep track of it? Okay.
And how I would say, how broad is that? Is it at the enterprise level at this point, or is it still down in IT or HR or wherever.
Let's see how they roll with that.
I know,
Then
excited to hear.
Better than my questions.
Oh, what's your question? It's not. It's going to be
I
from every
forgot.
perspective.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
I
You have
remember.
to
I'm
listen
going
to
to. I'm going to repeat what you asked, Mick. It was, if you weren't in HR, what would you do?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
There you go. It's not about skills, just something more personal. I think it's a good conversation starter, but Julian disagreed.
Definitely. Like we got a good response from it, and it was a great start to the next conversation. So it worked
Yeah.
worked really well.
There we go.
That's good. Well, I feel like that should be your closing. That should be your closeout for every podcast now.
I
people.
could
Okay.
do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So,
Jordana,
I
if you
mean,
weren't in
yeah.
HR, what would you do?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think I would be, my dream job would be on The View. You just get to talk about all sorts of social and political aspects every day. What a dream, right? So there you go.
That's cool. That's
Newscaster
really
or
cool.
podcaster. So you helping me live my dream today.
This is it.
First of
This is
many.
the dream. This is
Yeah.
you don't have to choose. It's end to end.
Yeah,
But-
exactly. I can do both.
But we're not going to
things.
talk about
Fantastic.
politics right now.
No.
That's for
No.
the next episode, cliffhanger.
Yeah. This is strictly work focus.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's great.
But then there's nothing left for me to say. Thank you both, Jordana and Mick, for tuning in here, and I hope we do this again.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julius. Thank you, Mick.